Hi, welcome to Diecast QT. I'm QT, and in this video I'm going to be restoring and customizing a Matchbox Series number 19 Road Dragster. This particular one, the former owner's given it a bit of a makeover and gone crazy with some red paint and a black marker. So let's start by drilling out the posts. The rear post of this one actually had already popped out, so we need to drill out two. So taking it apart, the base came off pretty easily. It's got a built-in suspension. The wheels are a little bit shonky, so we're going to get rid of those and replace them with some axle tubes and some aftermarket wheels. Inside we've got the interior just fallen out, just the seats and a steering wheel, and the heavily painted window section, and then the main casting, which has got a plastic motor attached. This particular one's been painted heavily with red paint by the former owner. So let's drill out the plastic retaining bit there, and then use the trusty centre punch to push it out. Now I did dip this engine in some Dettol for a few hours and then took it out, but it ended up being so brittle that it snapped in two, so I ended up replacing it from another road dragster I've got lying around. The rest of the parts were pretty decent. Those of you who've watched my videos before will know I normally use Dettol to strip the paint from these, but this time I've decided to use some proper paint stripper. But it looks like the paint stripper I bought isn't proper paint stripper because it isn't stripping the paint. So I had an absolute mare getting the paint off of this one. My new method of choice that I've been using since this nightmare is the method used by Rob at Matchbox Garage, namely a foot-long hot dog jar, a kettle and some caustic soda. It's pretty scary, but it really gets results. So you'll see the nightmare I had with this. It's just, I left it for, I don't know how long, probably 20 minutes, and it's just not even affected the paint in the slightest. Sure, some of it was coming off, but even Dettol was probably working better than this. I persevered nonetheless, because it's covered in paint stripper now and there's not much else I can do with it. Take off those original stickers. They weren't tampos back in the day, those were stickers on top of the paint.
Much later.
So having given up with the paint stripper, I decided to just blast the paint off with a Dremel and a steel brush. And it certainly does the trick, but it just takes ages to do. Sped up the footage on this massively to save you the bother of having to go through the same ordeal I went through. And here we come to the main story arc of this build, was the paint. I first started out, this was 6 months ago I did this at first, and the usual, put on some grey surface primer, because my intention was to restore it to its original state, i.e. nice, shiny and red. Now at this time of year, which was probably, I would say November 2019, my workshop's in my garage and the temperatures in there were bordering on sub-zero, and I didn't know it at the time, but those sorts of temperatures have a major impact on the behaviour of acrylic paint. And I asked around on Facebook, and it seems that acrylic paints don't work very well below 12 degrees Celsius, and obviously in that workshop we are well below 12 degrees Celsius. So you'll see what happens. I'm laying on the Tamiya red at the minute, and it seems to be going okay. but I noticed that there's some kind of, I want to say, orange peeling or bubbling on the surface, and it doesn't seem to want to stick to the primer. I'll carry on, thinking it might just need a bit more paint or put too much thinner on. But you can see on the edges there that you can still see the primer showing through, and the paint really isn't sticking. So at this point I realise it's going horribly wrong. And in a matter of seconds, this is what happens. So, back to the drawing board. Bear in mind at this point I haven't realised that the issue is the temperature. So I strip it back to bare metal, prime it again, paint it again, and get exactly the same result. At this point I do find out that it's the temperatures, so I wait until temperatures come back. 6 months. And for Christmas I got an electroplating kit from my girlfriend. And I thought, what better chance we have to put this to test than with this project which has been through the mill a few times already. So I electroplated it in zinc, polished it to a mirror shine, and decided to see if I can replicate the Spectraflame technique that is used by so many Hot Wheels restorers. Of course I don't have Spectraflame paints, but what I do have is some Tamiya X27 Clear Red. So what I'm going to try and do is put some clear red on the mirror finished casting and see if we can't end up with something close to a Spectraflame finish. So I laid down a light dusting first, a tack coat. And then start laying on progressively thicker coats. I did have fears at this point of it being pink. But as the coats went on, the red values kept getting richer and richer. And then left that to dry, then returned to it a little while later and put another coat on top. Again, the red kept getting richer and richer with every coat. So now turn to the wheels. As I've decided to put in axle tubes, I'm going to be cutting out the suspension that's there because it doesn't work with the green light axles that I've got because they're too big. So I just super glue in the aluminium tube and then set it in place and then leave that to dry overnight. And same with the front one. Bother filming that because you don't want to see the same thing twice. Plenty of super glue on there. And just on the left there you can see the green light wheels that I've picked out from two different sets, one for small ones for the front and some big ones for the rear. So turning to the engine, which I've replaced using a spare one I had from another road dragster I've got. I sprayed it black to begin with, then put on a coat of Tamiya gold leaf paint, and I did another coat of paint after this which I didn't record, which I'll talk about more in a moment. As we come to put it back together again, you'll see that I've got a nice clean window piece there, which, having been steeped in Dettol for a while, all of the nasty paint and marker pen came off it, and then there were a few scratches that I buffed out with some sanding pads up to 12,000 grit, and then finished with some Pledge Revive It floor polish, and it came up looking brilliant. In goes the interior, which I just cleaned with some hot soapy water, and here goes the engine, which I've put an extra coat of some of the new Vallejo The Shifters paints which I've been playing with, and this particular one was gold red, so from some angles the paint will look like it's red, and from other angles it will just stick with the original gold. I'm not sure how well it works on a gold background. It's designed to work on black, but you can certainly see a red tinge when you turn the model around. So I'm just pushing that back in place, making sure that it's kind of secured in place. And now we put the base back on. And the base I've just sprayed with some metal varnish to retain its kind of polished quality. And that was on top of some Nuln oil which I put in the grille at the front to kind of show some of the shadows. So finishing those off with some M2 hex head screws. And we're finished and ready for the final review. I hope you like it.